Alright, so this video should really this video should, as the thumbnail, have that rage comic Blueberry, the I lied face, because I know I keep telling you that I'm going to explain what this channel is in another one of my long form talking to myself videos, but today's video is not going to do that. I'm going to attempt to do a short form video today. Very short for me anyway, because today we're just going to talk about Brotato. I'm just going to review, I suppose, Brotato in a sort of free form. We're not going to do points. We're not going to break it down into groups. This isn't a professional video. I'm not paid, and I'm not trying to be a video game reviewer, because in order to be a video game reviewer, you have to only play about 1/5 of a video game's main content. And as I've now will have recorded in 3, probably 4 podcasts, I have officially completed everyone. Minimum level, difficulty level of 2, I think, is what I beat everyone on, except for a couple I've only beaten on I think well-rounded I've only beat on 0, and because that was the first one I beat, and holy shit, coming back and beating it on 5, trying to beat everybody on 5 is really kicking me in the dick. So I want to talk about how great this game is, because I don't usually like getting kicked in the dick by video games, which is interesting because I did just record a video wherein I said that Final Fantasy is a repeated kick in the dick for 60 hours, and that's what I liked about Final Fantasy. But I didn't know that that's what I liked about Final Fantasy, because you have to remember, when I got good at Final Fantasy, or when I had practiced Final Fantasy, I guess, yeah, when I got good at Final Fantasy is the terminology that we use now. I didn't know it was hard. I didn't know it was more difficult than other RPGs or JRPGs at the time. I just knew that it was the video game that I had access to. So I didn't know that I didn't know the things that I know today, and that I talked about when I've talked about, the difficulty in games and the arcade mindset, and why casual games became the norm. And I still have, in all of the talk that I've done about video games, I haven't found a place for MMORPG, for EverQuest, that I spent so many years of my life in, and then WoW, which I spent, World of Warcraft, which I spent even more years of my life in. We're not talking about that today. We're going to talk about Brotato, because holy shit, I love Brotato. Every time I tell myself, I'm getting tired of the roguelite formula, I sit down and look at my list of games. I look through my catalog of these games that I haven't even booted up yet, that I've picked up thinking that I would record, or thinking that I would play through, like other people play through video games for a few hours to say that they don't like it, and I just end up playing Brotato some more. It's incredible. I've spent the last 20 plus hours of my gaming time, so over the course of maybe 2 or 3 days, just losing on well-rounded, the first guy that you have available to you, on difficulty 5, trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing wrong. It's incredible, and that I love that, and there's a certain satisfaction that comes with when you finally win. Even though the way I play in endless, when you finally win, it really, what I mean is finally getting to and past wave 20, because that's counted. That's what the game considers a win. There's this relief and this satisfaction, but it's funny because when you do it, when you actually are able to win, it's almost laughably easy. That is, round 20 is almost laughably easy, and then and this is what I love about it. This isn't a complaint. Maybe other people would say that this is a bad thing, but I think that this is the brilliance of the game. Everything after round 20 is almost daring the game to kill you, the way that I play it. Now, I'm sure that other people are really trying to get to wave 40, but I've been above wave 30 maybe twice, I think, and it's fun. It's fun, but it's fun in that personal challenge kind of way that winning anything on the highest difficulty is, and I think I talked about that. But I spent a long time trying to define last episode what exactly an RPG is. And I made the quippy remark that a stat sheet does not an RPG make. And I would insist that is proved by Brotato, that this is a game that's very dependent on your stats. But there is absolutely no roleplay element whatsoever. If you're role-playing this potato, it's purely out of the human tendency to anthropomorphize, that is, personify or make human, give human characteristics, personality, and, well, I said characteristics, so give human traits, personality, and characteristics to things which don't have them, and even give the wrong sorts of those things to humans, to other people, to completely misidentify and mischaracterize one another. I don't know that I would call Brotato a perfect video game. There are flaws. So if we're going to do like I like to do, which is negatively identify, maybe what I should do is, having said that Brotato is definitely my favorite game of 2023, and really maybe the most fun or the most compelled that I've been to play and get good at a game since Civilization 6 was released on the Switch. And that's really saying something, because before Brotato, Civilization 6 was my go-to game for downtime, wind down, want to play a video game, don't really know what I want to play. And so that gets me into gameplay elements, because if I'm examining my behavior, and that's what talking to myself is about, is examining my thoughts, and my thoughts are my behavior. If I'm examining my behavior with Civ 6, the reason I love it so much is because I know the rules so well. I know it so well. It's so familiar to me, but also every playthrough is novel. And that's what any good game gives you. That is demonstrated in that quippy whip, that witty quip. There we go. About, now I've lost it. Damn it, Vincent. About something enjoyable taking a short time to learn but a lifetime to master, and that's what Civ 6 gives, and that's what sport games or any competitive game or any game that can draw an audience to a professional, that's what they give, is the audience could play the game. I mean, the people in the stadiums at football games could play the sport. It just wouldn't be as fun. It wouldn't be as fun to watch. And, in fact, if we're going to talk a little bit about the history of game and about the history of spectating game, and that is relevant to this channel, if not to Brotato themselves. So, I mean, the developers of Brotato aren't going to like this review or the way that I'm presenting this review, but I warned you this isn't going to be a professional review. I am not IGN, and I'm not trying to be Escapist. So, what was I talking about? What was I saying? I really got to stop fucking with the settings on my mic while I'm talking and while I'm in the middle of a thought. I lose what I'm talking about. So, football, the sport football, whether it be soccer or American football or rugby or whatever, the Italian variant is actually closer to what I'm about to talk about. But that game used to not be played with teams of limited players. It used to be between halves of cities or between towns themselves, so hundreds, thousands of people would be on either side. So when I say that a spectator game, that a game that can draw spectators, that the people in the crowd could play it, the game football used to be played with no spectators. Everyone was involved in the game. And then it turned out that the people that were really good at the game were more fun to watch than to compete against. I mean, it's really that simple. And I mean, that's why gaming online is so popular, and why Twitch streaming it is so popular, is it's more fun to watch the guy who's really good at Madden or really good at these first-person shooters, the competitive, the MMO games, the people that are really good at that. It's more fun to watch them than to get your ass kicked by them when you know you're never going to be as good as they are. Like that's why I never tried out. And I know I'm way off. I know I'm way off base, but this is mine, and they can kiss my ass. You can kiss my ass, frankly. Um, that's why I never played Overwatch. Is by the time I would have been able to afford it, or by the time I would have been able to justify the expenditure to play it at full price, uh, the community had already existed for so long, and I had played World of Warcraft, i.e., I had played Blizzard games and been in the Blizzard community long enough to know that my learning curve as I tried to learn the game was going to make the community of the game a fucking nightmare for me. So I just quit playing first person shooters online in general because it just wasn't fun to learn how to play the game. Like I remember trying to go back to them with Modern Warfare, the Call of Duty that I think it was Call of Duty when they re-released Modern Warfare 2 or whatever, the one where they went back to World War II here recently, and I couldn't get into all the dying, and so that's what I'm talking about. I guess when I'm talking about Brotato is getting into the dying. Like I could never get into the dying in Dark Souls. I never felt like I was progressing, and now that I'm done progressing in Brotato, that's the first thing that I want to complain about is how quickly the progression is in fact over. And what I would like to see is for the game, or that the game were more like the Binding of Isaac. And so I guess what I've been thinking about while I've been playing this game is not how much like the Binding of Isaac the game itself is, but how much like the Binding of Isaac my appreciation for this game is. Or rather, how much my appreciation for this game is like my appreciation for the Binding of Isaac. Because on the PC, I've probably got 85, probably nearly most of the game completed, but I don't have all of the DLC on the computer. And then I bought the whatever, the Super Rebirth or whatever it's called on the Switch that has all of the DLC, and it's changed the game so much that going back and trying to unlock everything again, because I had most certainly beaten it. I had most certainly beaten all of the stages and all of the heavens and all of the hells, and I had unlocked all of the stages. But I know I hadn't unlocked all of the characters. I know I hadn't platinumed it, is what they say on PlayStation. And now I'm bitching about achievements on the Switch again. But it is a problem for me because, like, Binding of Isaac not having the achievements, and I know that you have the unlocks and everything, but it not being achievements, just it made it what I'm talking about. Like, going back and progressing through and unlocking everything is a very tedious process. And on Isaac, once you've already seen all the cutscenes and all of that, I didn't really feel compelled to go back and do it again on the Switch, is what I'm saying. But with Brotato, I felt absolutely compelled to at least beat the game with every character, since that unlocked items. But I said I wanted to begin with negatively identifying what I love about Brotato. Is I wish that now that I've unlocked and I've beaten it with all the other characters, I wish that there were obscure challenges to unlock even more powerful items. I wish that there were a wider array of weapons. And I know that that's a silly thing to say, what with all the weapons that there are, but a lot of the really interesting weapons are rare, even legendary, and so without stacking luck, you're not likely to see them. And for me, it's really hard to justify luck at the higher levels, and maybe that's what I'm doing wrong, because again, I've only beaten it on difficulty 5 once, and it took me a couple of weeks to beat everybody on 2 and 3, and with the one win on 4. So maybe it's my style of play. Maybe it's a skill issue, as you would say. But that actually adds to how much I love the game, and it's the simplicity is what I'm trying to talk about, is what I'm working my way toward it. That the only gameplay element that you have is move. You can turn on the targeting, but every time I think to myself about doing a review and about saying this, that's the first thing I think about, is the simplicity, and that you can turn on the targeting. but every time I've done it just to see what it's like, it's just been an instant death sentence. I just die within seconds of having made that choice. So I don't think that it's intended to be played that way. I don't think that there are builds where playing that way is beneficial to you. But that simplicity in the core design is what I like. And I suppose that that leads me back to roleplay, because with each of the different characters, or each of the different stat sets, really does beg the question of, does a stat sheet make a character? Because the stat changes as you evolve your potato, as you grow up your potato in power, and that philosophy of the JRPG that I was talking about in last episode, and I'm not going to revisit it. You're just going to have to go listen. The more powerful your potato becomes, the more character, or the more personality in that way it gets. And so the more actually you narrow your role down, unless what you're trying to do is broaden. And a lot of the reason that I can't seem to win with well-rounded is because I keep broadening my stats too wide. I need to narrowly focus on one thing until I hit thresholds, and I don't like re-rolling. So anyway, the items, re-rolling, the being able to lock items in the store during the re-roll makes the RNG aspect of the store fun. It doesn't make it, because the RNG items showing up like in the way that Brotato does their store, where you beat a level and then you get 4 items that randomly spawn in that you can choose to buy from, and then those are based on your luck score. That makes it fun to me. Normally in games, like the locking it so that I can at least plan for the future makes it fun for me. That setup in a lot of other games, if you can't lock it, I almost find it frustrating. So like I've played a lot of Slay the Spire, and when you go into a store and Slay the Spire, I know you can't refresh the items that are available. I don't think you can refresh the cards either. And if you could, you certainly couldn't lock certain of them not to refresh. And that was an absolutely essential design element if they wanted my love, which they've got it. So if they didn't want it, well, too bad. Have I come to the end of how I feel about this game? Because I wanted this to be short. It makes me wonder whether it is an RPG and whether I am making a role and playing them every time I go through, even though there is no dialogue. And here's my last thing. There's no dialogue, and there's absolutely no story. There's no story, there's no filler, there's no bullshit. Like, if I had to say that there was one thing that I didn't want Isaac to have, it was that story. But the one thing that kind of makes Isaac compelling in its own right is the story. So I am stoked that Brotato has no story, no context for why the thing is happening. It's just the thing. It's just the game. Just play. Like, there's no why that the 2 NFL football teams are playing, besides that's the schedule. Right, the why isn't a deeper, meaningful. This town hates that town, and this guy and that guy, or this guy in that town stole something from that guy in that town, so now everybody's going to play a game of football, which happened historically. That's not what's going on in Brotato. There's not even any context for what the damn monsters are, whether they're aliens or mutations or what. I have no idea, and I genuinely don't care. Like, if you've been paying attention to my, and maybe I haven't done enough to articulate them, but I don't necessarily love a broad, sweeping, epic story in a video game. Frequently, I would prefer that my video games not have any story, or at least I grew up, and I still remember, and I still fondly remember. I wouldn't say I still nostalgize, but I still fondly remember the only video game, or the only story that was in a video game was in the push start screen, where it would have a little video giving you the context for what's going on, and that's it. I have always preferred that, for the game. If the game has a narrative, for the gameplay to tell me what's going on. I've always hated the Uncharted style game, or like, and I guess I shouldn't just pick on Naughty Dog, but I was going to say the Crash Bandicoot style as well. But I've never liked the video game sections, and then the movie sections, and then the video game sections, and then the movie sections, and your reward for beating the video game sections is a movie. I've never been visually stimulated in that way. I've never liked movies, and I've never liked television enough that was a reward to me. In fact, those were always punishing me. And from my perspective, and I'm here to play a video game, not watch a movie. So if I have to stop playing a video game every few minutes to watch a movie, it's like, well, I'll just play a video game that doesn't do that to me. And Brotato has exactly zero downtime. Like, you're constantly making a choice. Even immediately after you're died, you're making the choice of how you want to start over. Do you want to start over from scratch? Do you want to start over with how you started this last run? That's brilliant. It's almost quite literally impossible for me to put down. And that on its own makes it almost a perfect game. I don't wish, in fact, that there were more characters. The number of characters gives me choice anxiety, but like with Civilization, it makes for random, just pushing random on your character and random on your weapon, and then just going at it from a skill perspective, or at your skill level, letting your skill at the game decide how the game is going to play out. Like, that's a narrative, that's a story in its own right. So playing the game is its own sort of story, and that's what I like. So if I were going to compare Brotato directly with, everybody's favorite game of the last decade, Skyrim, the one thing that everybody says about Skyrim is that, your story is yours in Skyrim, and that's absolutely wrong. But the way that you play Brotato, and whether you survive or not, that absolutely is up to you, and it's up to your choices, it's up to your creativity, and that, to me, is awesome. I love it. In fact, I don't even want to do this anymore. I'm just going to go play more Brotato.